Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We've heard a lot today about credibility of the United States. It seems to me that we have a credibility problem because our foreign policy in the Middle East is inconsistent. Our enemies really don't know what our foreign policy is. Our friends don't know what it is, and I'm not so sure Americans know what our foreign policy is in the Middle East. And we've seen it play out with different reasons, going into different countries, removing people from leadership and putting somebody else in or being approved of it, tacitly approved of it. I, like my friend Mr. McCall from Austin, are concerned about the players on both sides. There is no pure side in this civil war. You got Hezbollah, a bunch of bad guys, on one side, and you have other terrorist groups on the other side, including al-Nusra and al-Sharam. I do believe that these are powerful groups on both sides. History will find out who ends up winning this civil war. And then you factor in the religious connotation in this civil war, and you really do have a real problem. We do have a real problem on our hands. My concern is now specifically we want to do something to punish Mr. Bad Guy Assad. No question about it. He's a bad guy. He's wasting good air breathing. But we're not going to shoot it. We're just going to shoot a shell over the bow. We're not going to take him out because we don't want to destabilize the civil war going on between two different sides, if I understand what that policy is. So let's do that. Let's assume we do that. I'm going to ask General Dempsey this question first. Assume we do that, whatever it is, to destabilize the weapons of mass destruction. Get rid of them. I assume that's what we're trying to do, eliminate the weapons of mass destruction. Even though, as Secretary Hagel said, they're getting those things from Syria, from Russia, which they're going to give them more weapons? I don't know. Assume we do that. Assad fights back. He doesn't just take it. He retaliates against us, or lets Iran retaliate against Israel, all because we have come into this civil war. So they shoot back. Then what do we do once Americans are engaged now in escalated specific by our choosing, but by their choosing? Do we escalate or do we not fight back? And I know, General Dempsey, you got a tough situation on your hands. What do we do if they literally shoot back at Americans, our friends, the Israelis?
First, just to clarify, this isn't about eliminating chemical weapons. That's not possible, given the number and the distribution of them. It's about convincing the Assad regime that it's unacceptable for them to use them, and that's the limit of this military operation. We're postured for the possibility of retaliation, and I can assure you that our regional partners are as well.
Let me just ask that question a little bit, a little more clarification from you, if you can, General. I know you're in the military and you're to the point, and that's great. We're glad you're in charge. Can you see that escalating, though, with U.S. military involvement in the region? Have you made a contingency plan for that happening? Whatever their reaction is, the Syrians' reaction to us specifically, have you made contingency plans for us being in an escalated military operation in the region?
In the spirit of your compliment on my conciseness, yes.
And do you see escalation a possibility, U.S. military escalation in the region as a possibility?
Well, I can never drive the risk of escalation to zero, but I think that the limited purpose, the partnerships we have in the region, the contributions that we'll seek from others, I think begins to limit that risk.
One last question, since I'm nearly out of time here. General Dempsey, you mentioned earlier you are concerned about removing Assad from power. Do you want to? Will you elaborate on that? And if so, what's your elaboration?
Well, I still, again, separate from this conversation, which is about the limited purpose of deterring and degrading, I still am cautious about whether we should use U.S. military force in support of the opposition for the purpose of tipping the balance. I think there's other ways we can contribute to that through the development of a moderate opposition. But I remain cautious about taking the opposition's role here in the Civil War.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Brian Higgins.